Hello everybody, this is one of the first video of my channel, probably the last one too. It's a 2011 F-150 extended cab. As you can see, I've got everything done already because I don't have three arms to hold the camera and do this at the same time. And this is kind of a last minute thought of what I was going to do. Problem I was having was my gas gauge, fuel gauge was reading 3/4 of a tank when the tank was full. And then when it got down to about a quarter tank would last way longer than it usually would. So I had taken the bed off once before, a few weeks ago, to test the sensor in the fuel pump, the fuel sending unit in the fuel pump. And it was reading consistently from where it would be empty up to full. But the readings, I think, are supposed to be like 10 ohms up to, I remember if it was 180 or 200 and something. So I went ahead and ordered one off of Amazon, just the sending unit, because the fuel pump's like $200 from, AutoZone, or $400 from the dealership. So looking at how to do this, I didn't really feel like dropping the fuel tank because I wasn't for sure how much fuel I had left in it. So I decided, I've got a forklift with a granite boom and chain hoist and all that stuff. So it's easy enough for me to do this by myself. First time took a little longer. Second time was pretty quick because you knew where everything was. So what you have to do in order to get the bed off, in the fuel cap filler, there are three holes, which you can't see. Now you can. There's three bolts, 8mm, I think. You take those out. If you have the little E85 ring, pull it off. Up underneath the bed, you have a hose clamp on the filler hose right here that clamps to the bed. You take that off. And then you take there's a hose right here that goes to your axle, rear axle. It has barbed fitting that goes into part of the bed frame, a hole in there. When I took it off, one of the barbs broke, so when I put it on the first time, I you can see the zip tie down there. I zip tied it up to something so it would stay upright and out of the way. The first time when I took it off, I didn't take the bumper off. But before I put it back on, I did take the bumper off because it was such a tight fit. Being by myself, it was going to be easier to do that. So there's really 6 bolts. You have 2 here, 1 down here on each side. So you take those off. And the imitation bumper, because really it's not much of a bumper, it's plastic. So you take that off, and then this wiring connector right here hooks onto the bottom of the bed. Kind of right, if you're looking up from the bottom, right there is where it would be hooked into. And then there is, on the bed, there are 2 wires. If you look at your bumper, the license plate illumination, you have to take those, they're twist lock connectors, so you take those off. And I think that was it. Then you take and pull that off. Like I said, I've got a chain hoist and a forklift, so I just stuck the chain hoist on there, lifted it up, and did that. To get the fuel pump out, I used a spanner wrench like this. It's probably a little smaller than what it needs to be. But some of the other videos I watched, they marked how the pump was in. So I marked the ring, and then there's a tab right here under the ring that I marked it as well. You can see the white mark where it was. So I know how it went back in there. These fittings, this one, you squeeze that in and push the little clip out, and it'll raise off. This electrical connector, you got to push that red tab out, and push that down, and the electrical wire will slide out. This one has a lock on it, so you have to flip that out and push the connector out. So it connects, like you kind of got to squeeze it together and push it out, and that locks that one in place. And then just be sure, and first time I forgot to push that back in. So anyway, but don't forget to do that. But this, you just take and put it in these notches, and I got a wooden mallet. And I actually, when I did it this time, I did it before I unhooked the hoses so there wouldn't be any fuel on it, and then just pop that with a mallet until it comes loose. So to lift the pump out was kind of a pain because there's a loop of wire inside that hangs under this lip right here. So you got to raise it up, work the little tab that's right here, up above these locking tabs and then tilt the pump this way until you get this edge out, because it's offset too. You got this here, and then the pump is kind of offset like this, and you got the float that sticks out. So second time taking it out was easier than the first time. So that was that. The sending unit, the old one at least, is right here, and you can kind of see, you know, I don't know if it's just, I'd seen some things where it was the fuel, sulfur in the fuel, I think is what they said, would get on that, whatever you call the electronics part of that, and it would not read correctly. You can take this and put an ohm meter on in the ends and read it. Anyway, the only thing holding it in was there's a tab on the pump itself that locks over that little barb, and it was kind of a pain to get out of it. It was on there pretty good, but once you get that out of the way good, it slides off, and you just slip the other one on there. Reroute the wiring the same way. Putting it back on, obviously, is, you know, the reverse. Make sure you got all your fuel lines connected back, and then set the bed on, tighten the bolts down. I can't remember the torque setting. I'll have to look that up again, or my wrench may still be set from when I did it a couple weeks ago. I'm not a mechanic, but I didn't want to pay, you know, I didn't want to pay for a pump. The quotes I got for replacing the pump was like $1,000 from either the dealership or another mechanic we use on some, you know, if it's something that I don't feel like tackling or whatever. So I didn't want to do that. The dealership didn't want to replace just the sending unit. They wanted to replace the whole pump. Of course, they were going to use the Ford pump, and that was $400. So, you know, it took me maybe an hour to take probably 30 minutes to take the bed off. Once, you know, after you've done it the first time, you can remember how to do it and what you have to do. But anyway, I couldn't find in particular how to get this fuel pump off, you know, the locking ring, and how to get it out of there online. So I thought, well, I wish I had a tripod or something I could mount my phone on to make it a little easier for anybody else that's looking for this in the future. But maybe this will help somebody. If it does, leave a like. You know, I could say subscribe, but there ain't nothing on my channel, so there's no point in doing that. If I ever wanted to do something different, which I don't, I could put more on there. But I may in the future, if I do a different something on this truck that's a little more challenging, or something that I can't find online, I may post that too. But anyway, if you see this, you've gotten this far, thanks for watching.